Welcome back, everyone. I like to think that if I were a teacher, I would be the coolest, most laid-back teacher ever. But if my students made me mad, I'd turn into Professor Snape in a flash.
Thanks very much for that, Lainey. Here with what life is really like in the classroom and ready to answer all of our questions is teacher and parenting writer Kate Winn. Welcome back, Kate.
You've been a teacher for 16 years. Your husband is a vice principal. Your parents are retired, both retired teachers. So I think it's fair to say that teaching is in your blood. So what do you think is the biggest misconception that people have about teachers?
Well, as much as I would love to think that the public all has respect for our profession, I think there's still that small number of people that think that it's all about the perks and not about the work. And I know I chose my career, as we all do, and I'm very appreciative of the salary and the benefits that it provides. I also know how hard I work. I know that I love my students. I know that I go to sleep every night worrying about other people's children. And I know the vast majority of my colleagues are the same. So as they like to say on The Bachelor, we're in it for the right reasons.
So, okay, we got a ton of questions for you on social media, and a lot of it was focused on technology. So the first one is from Anne. So Anne wrote, is concentration on learning and teaching more difficult with the allowance of cell phones within the classroom? So where do you stand on this?
So we know that kids love their technology, as do most of us adults. So what we're really trying to do now is sort of harness that and use it for educational purposes. I know our local Catholic high school is launching an initiative called BYODE, which stands for Bring Your Own Device. So whether it's cell phones or tablets, we're trying to get them using them in the classroom, because if they love them that much, we might as well take advantage.
But for not for socializing as much as it is.
Exactly, yeah, for research, for work communication, yes.
How do you regulate it?
So, I mean, some teachers might have a policy of no cell phones in the classroom, and some might be embracing them like this. Really, it just depends on what the teacher wants to use them for, but I don't think anybody thinks that kids should be on them for personal reasons in class. Sometimes that's on parents too, so please don't phone your child when you know they're in class. Yes, and expect them to answer.
You're kidding. That might be you, Mel. Are you thinking about Harvard? Is your application?
Touche. Speaking of parents, when I was a teacher, I had to, of course, deal with my students' parents. But now I'm on the other side of the desk because Marquez is transitioning into preschool. I want to know from your perspective, do you prefer the really hyper-involved parent, or do you prefer a teacher that really respects your role and is a little more hands-off?
I think there can be a really good balance between the two. I mean, I want to see parents being involved in the sense of reading and responding to communication that comes home from school, talking to your kids about their day, even volunteering to whatever extent your schedule permits. And I also think if you have questions or you have comments, if it's always coming from a place of respect and of wanting what's best for your child, then definitely keep that involvement coming. I think the only time I would say hands off is when it comes to the kids' work. I mean, homework, assignments, they should be responsible for the learning, not the parents.
Amen, Kate. Okay, speaking of which, that was my teacher voice. Let's say parents disagree with a decision that a teacher has made. What should they do? What's your opinion? It never happens.
So, first of all, take some time to think about it, because sometimes when you sleep on it, you decide maybe you don't need to pursue it. I've seen some agenda notes kind of scribbled out, and where I think parents decided the next morning, okay, never mind, maybe I won't say that. So you definitely want to take some time and think about it. You also want to make sure that if it's an issue with the teacher, you start with them. Don't jump over their heads and go right to the principal. Of course, if you're not satisfied with the response that you get, then you're fully within your rights to work your way up the chain. But really pick your battles, because when you go higher up, you want people to sit up and take notice when you have a concern.
Right.
Now, we had a lot of people write in as well about cursive writing, specifically how it's not really taught in the classroom anymore. So how much freedom do you have to sort of add things into a curriculum that's already mandated?
So, I mean, the curriculum is pretty packed and jam-packed full. I do feel as a teacher that my professional judgment is trusted when there are little pockets of time to do things. With cursive writing in particular, there are a lot of teachers that do still try to weave a little bit in, expose the kids to it. I have a great resource that I send home, especially if parents feel really strongly that they want their kids to learn. My daughters are 9 and 7. They're both excited about cursive writing. But it's 2016, and to be honest, if I have time to teach the kids either to type or to write cursive, I'm going with typing.
Okay. So I'd like to ask you about bullying. We talked about it even off the top of the show. How do you deal with that in the classroom? Do you automatically at the beginning of the year kind of know who the bullies are? And if so, do you get involved in those things, or do you worry that could end up escalating it outside the classroom?
Well, actually, right off the top, I want to make sure always that kids and parents understand the difference between bullying and normal conflict, so that the word bullying doesn't get misused. So if you have two kids, maybe it's physical back and forth, maybe it's verbal back and forth, they're both upset about it, they both want to resolve things eventually, like that's normal conflict. But if you've got a case where there's one kid who's maybe more in a position of power, it's not an accident, it's not a one-time thing, it's something repeated, and it's the victim who is upset about it, then you know you've got bullying. So I would always start with the victim, making sure that they feel heard and safe, whatever you have to do in that case. And then with the bully, you want to decide what sort of discipline might need to be taken. Often the principal gets involved or something else as well. And keeping parents in the loop. And of course, we have sympathy for the victim when we want to make sure we're taking care of them. But often the parents of the child who's doing the bullying, they need some tips and support too, because they're not sure how to help and how to resolve things from their end.
This is so true.
Are there ever times where your students disclose things to you that you don't share with parents?
So, I mean, there might be little minor things at school, like misbehaviors, that sort of stuff, and I sort of have a threshold where I feel like I need to let parents know. But if they disclose anything and it has anything to do with their health or safety or even their academic success, I'm definitely going to tell parents. Even at high school, until kids actually become adults, it's still the parents' right to know about their education, to know what's going on. But in those cases, we would usually say to the child, you know, this is actually pretty big. We're going to have to talk to your parents. We wouldn't just kind of throw them under the bus.
Yeah. Okay, so March break is fast approaching, and for some people that means they're going to be traveling, having some vacation time. What is your feeling on parents who, outside of maybe the typical vacation time, might be pulling their kids out a lot to go on vacation?
Well, as someone who can only travel on March break, I get the financial reasons that some people might want to go when it's not peak time. Last year, out of 20 students, I had 5 of them who actually took a week off to go down south at some point in the winter or the spring. It worked out fine. I really recommend talking to the teacher as far in advance as you can, because I know how to plan around things if I know kids are going to be away. You also might not want to lead with, they're going to learn more on this trip than they do at school, because what I totally believe, it's true. I totally believe that there are a lot of educational opportunities when kids travel, absolutely, but you also have to acknowledge that some curriculum's going to be missed, and they may have to make some things up when they get back, and also teachers might not always be in a position to give the work in advance. Some parents ask for that, and they might not be prepared to do that. You might have to do it later. But kids can take pictures and write journals and bring back artifacts. There are lots of ways to show their learning from when they're away too.
Okay, I want to end with a very probing question from one of our viewers, Julie, who wrote, "How much wine do you need to drink in a week?" LOL.
First of all, thank you, Julie. Thank you for understanding us, but my official answer will be no comment.
No comment.
Kate, this is always so enlightening. Thank you for your perspective.
Thanks for